get analysis with Wajahat S. He's the founder and CEO of the Ivy Future of Pakistan conference. Thanks so much again for speaking to us. It seems like it was a long time ago that you and I spoke. It was just yesterday, because right now, is this all-out war between India and Pakistan?
It does look like it, doesn't it? And a lot has changed since the last 24 hours. Yesterday, we were assessing the second stage, an unprecedented stage of cyber warfare and drones, which was different from the first stage, which was missiles from the Indian side. And now, in the third day of the war, we've seen, I mean, it's not officially a war at this point, but now both sides have names, official, legal, formal names for their assaults or counter-assaults. The Pakistani name is pretty telling. Operation Banyanul Mansoor, which effectively means wall of steel. It's a Quranic verse which goes on to tell you how the Pakistanis are approaching this. But the very fact that on the third day we're seeing a third wave of strikes in mainland Pakistan, major cities, from air-to-surface missiles backed by Indian drones, hitting logistical forward air bases in Pakistan. The Pakistanis are claiming they've intercepted most of them, and then countering with their own surface-to-surface missiles, releasing that footage which you were just showing at the top of the show. Now, that is very interesting. If we're going to calibrate that, it's almost a tit-for-tat response. The Pakistanis have targeted their counterpart bases in India. Udhampur has been targeted by the Pakistanis in response, for example, to the Noor Khan air base. Both are transport air bases. So the telegraphed response from either side is very calibrated. The Pakistanis are effectively doing what is called, in game theory and political science and conflict theory, tit for tat. Now, that term has also been used recently by the American president. Donald Trump came out and said just yesterday that, oh, I think they've reached their tit for tat level. I think it should be over soon. I'm happy to help. Now, people in South Asia are used to having American presidents usually give them a call by this time because they're both nuclear powers. But this is the first conflict we're seeing in recent history where nobody's calling. In fact, it's funnily enough, people are leaving. It was the Saudi ambassador who had just left the very same airbase where the Indians attacked. And by the way, he had just landed in India a few hours before that. So both countries, old rivals, but some people in the West are rolling their eyes about, oh, another India-Pakistan conflict. No, it's different this time because they're lacking they're lacking solid brokers, and they're also lacking off-ramps right now. I don't see an off-ramp coming up.
Why is that, though? Because we were speaking to Kamran about how this does feel so different to the other conflicts that these two countries have had. What is it that's happened over the last few months or even the last year that's made it so much worse, because it feels worse than before, where they're on the brink of possibly using nuclear weapons? That in one instance, Pakistan's defense minister spoke to our channel not that long ago, and the person speaking during the interview said 20 million people could die from the use of one nuclear weapon. Why chance that?
Yeah, they're almost normalizing. Both sides have been forced, one side has been forced to normalize conflict because the other side is edging towards normalizing conflict. Now, keep in mind, the countries fought a war in the mid to late 40s when they became independent. Then they took a 15-year break. They fought in the 60s. Then it took another half a decade. They fought in the 70s. Then they took a decade and a half break and fought in the 80s and 90s. So, but this time, since the right-wing Hindu nationalist government of the BJP has come along, India has decided to, A, not fight for territory, unlike previous wars, but rather fight for any random or not so random terror incident on their ground. The very fact that these two sovereign states used to go to war with each other, formally declaring it, fight it over days, announce it on the radio, announce it on television, issue national songs, issue warnings, those days are gone. Now, any random incident, whether it can be or cannot be traced back to Pakistan, is placed on Pakistan's lap by the Indians, which is what has happened this time around. And the very fact that the Indians are starting to behave, for example, like the Israelis and trying to treat Pakistan like either the Syrians or the Lebanese has made a new normal for conflict in South Asia. Now, here's the fact. The Indians are not the Israelis, and the Pakistanis are definitely not like the Lebanese or the Syrians. They are the world's fifth largest military, the only Islamic military with nuclear weapons. Now, that's where the escalation ladder, the off-ramp versus the off-ramp becomes really important. Now, here I was thinking, hoping in the last, especially since you and I talked, that they would give each other some breathing room and start negotiating. None of that has happened. And the Indians have come back harder. And finally, after 3 days of getting pummeled, the Pakistanis have responded today. There was a lot of pressure for the Pakistanis to respond. They didn't do it. They were quite restrained. But the very fact that now they've officially released footage, officially released photographs saying that we're going all out, it's effectively all-out war. But I would, at this point, really blame regional players for not doing enough, and especially for Western leaders like Mr. Trump, who should be questioned when they say, oh, it's tit for tat, it's done, they've been doing it for 1,500 years, I hope it stops soon. I don't think that that's good, solid statesmanship, especially because the stakes are so high. Stakeholders should be more cognizant. And I think both sides need a little bit of adult guidance right now.
And that may possibly happen, particularly after what we've just seen play out over the last few hours. Wajahat S, good to get your analysis. Thank you very much.